All right, that was a special ACC Tournament edition of the Sports Channel 8 theme song, in case you did not know it. I just got an 18 birdies notification. I figured it was Goodson playing golf, but I guess it's one of Goodson's friends. So we got to start right here. Obviously, we got ACC Tournament stuff to get to. We've got a semifinal Friday. We got Duke and UNC still alive, trying to save this wretched tournament from disaster. But we also have a new member of the Sports Channel 8 family. Josh Goodson has become a father ×2. Congratulations, my friend. Any stories?
No good stories. We're here at the beautiful Wake Med North facility. It actually is pretty nice. They each of the rooms basically have a dad, like not secluded, but an area where dads have their own TV, own couch.
They have a man cave at the hospital. Is that what you're saying?
They have a man cave. Literally, there are stations where the dads can roam the halls, and there's like places to go get snacks, like a mini fridge.
That's dude. Look, fathers. We know you're mostly useless, but we're just gonna kind of herd you into this other area where you can like sit down and occasionally like fetch snacks for the important.
The best game that I'm playing right now is Kelly, my wife. The Mother's Day, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dad get 1 meal top. So in theory, if we both ordered, I would need to pay extra for 2 meals. Whatever. I don't even know what it is. It's probably super cheap. But Kel's appetite's not even not great. And what's also good about it is they don't really put they're not going to tell a mom if she orders like one of everything on the menu. They're not going to be like, nah, like you can't do that. So like it's turned into a game of I can eat for free too. And how are we doing this? So it's pretty fun.
You know what this is? This is the hospital version of the Bojangles kids meal.
Yes.
Goodson is always trying to get that extra supreme for no cost, and he's managed to do it at the hospital. So
yeah, it's great. So everybody's doing good. Baby's doing good. Mom's doing good.
Do they have a putting green in there for you?
That would be nice. I mean, the hospital floors are rolling about a 15 today, I believe. So
you should go up to one of the doctors and just see if, like, hey, really nice setup here, but can we get a little putting green? Actually, you really like to work on my stroke a little bit here.
If we're gonna have the dad area, let's make it.
Let's do it right. Yeah.
Goodson just rolling a keg into the dad area.
Absolutely. Why not? Look, if we could have beer in our workplace, we could have beer in our hospitals. All right. I'm also dealing with a little dog issue right here. I'm at my sister's place. You're about to be in the kennel, buddy. So
that's a very cute dog, though.
It's a cool dog. I'm trying to flex with my background of the skyline there, but that's not working real well either. I could go outside.
I can definitely catch it.
There's some bridges in the background, but no, cool spot. Not quite on 69th Street, up on 70th Street. So unfortunately, not as nice as it could be. All right, let's talk a little. Brian Geisker, I hope you're doing well. Sorry you didn't have a baby, so you have.
It's cool. I'm glad everything's well with Goodson and family.
We're good, and we can talk about it, but my wife may have had the baby the best day to have a baby. If we're talking about what is there for me to do as being a father staying at home over the next couple weeks, right? Like from a TV viewing, the only way it could be better is if like the French Open was going on, if we had the Tour de France going on, and maybe like World Cup, right? Stuff happening like overnight.
Yeah.
But having March Madness happening kind of right as we got in the hospital is not bad. And I watched a basketball game last night that started after 10 p.m. I finally watched West Coast hoops, and I probably watched 10 basketball games yesterday. So I'm as keyed in on who's good in basketball, and I literally think UNC might be the best team in the country.
You're not feeling Wyoming and Colorado State out there? I think it was Rothstein was like, oh, upset in the West. No, it wasn't even the West Coast Conference. It was the Mountain West. It was like upset in the Mountain West. Now we've got 4 locked Mountain West teams for the NCAA tournament. And I was like, what? There should never be 4 locked teams from the Mountain West for the NCAA tournament.
Here's what I've never I guess we get wrapped up in the quads, right? And what I've never really understood is, let's use an example of a Big Ten team. Like Northwestern is not a good basketball team. They're like 12-14 or whatever. But the reality is their net ranking is high. And so if you go on the road and beat Northwestern, it's almost as good as from a metric standpoint of going on the road and beating Virginia. Yeah. And is Northwest like who kind of like where does the number start? Because is Northwestern's ranking that high because they played all the other good teams but lost, or that's the biggest issue I have whenever it gets down to like these resumes and efficiencies. Like, is your efficiency good because you actually are singularly good, or is it because we've just told everyone that no, Minnesota actually is really good, like, but they just lose every game. So it's just
you can get a good net ranking just by playing a really hard strength of schedule and sucking, and then everybody else feeds off that by getting you as a win, and it helps their net ranking. It's
like it's being a little like hyperbolic, but UNC literally might be playing the best basketball of any team in the country over the last week or so. No, I mean,
sure.
They have a setup, and we've talked about it before, that their best. We haven't seen it a lot, but their best can hang with anyone in the country and potentially beat anyone in the country. And there's only probably 10 other teams that can say that, versus anyone else.
Yeah.
But UNC's number 29 in the net. Really?
I think it's one of those things where it's like with UNC, like I do think there are like legitimate structural concerns with the defense that can be problematic. But when they're playing offense like this, it's like like only certain teams are the ones that can really like poke at the offense. Like if you have an awesome like primary ball handler or whatever, right, which like they're not going to see tonight in Virginia. Like Storm Murphy's like pretty good point guard, but like isn't like an NBA caliber, point guard. So, and yeah, I just kind of thought all season with UNC that like everyone in general kind of got too low after they would hit a rough patch. Mm-hmm. It felt like people were looking like fans. Now all those fans are incredibly chesty and very happy right now. But it's like at multiple times this year, the sky was falling. Like after the losses to Wake and Miami back to back, and I guess there was the loss with Notre Dame was like a week or two before that. Then after the Duke loss, and then certainly after the Pittsburgh loss, and those 2 games were in relatively quick succession as well. But it was like the pieces fit really well on offense. They're a top 20 to top 25 offense. Like that's legit. And there's something we said about like not just having like the raw data that comes in and spits out and says, yeah, they score a lot of points per possession, but that the pieces do fit. Like
they're
incredible how well that starting 5 has meshed together. And now they've played more than any other lineup in the ACC together at this point too. So it's like they have the reps and they have the talent, and the skill sets just like they amplify. Like Bacot and Manic make one another better because of like what those guys do best. You know what I mean? They bring out the best in the other guy.
Yep.
They're 2-point favorites tonight against Virginia Tech, and I'm just sitting here from like a betting perspective. Like, you would be who is betting Virginia Tech tonight?
Yeah,
there's no one that would do that. Like, and you can tell me that Keve Aluma is like, I'm sure is he a pro prospect? I assume like
deep. He's good,
but like he's good, but there's no. I'm like, okay, so Leaky Black's probably going to guard Keve Aluma.
I bet he'll get Couture, actually, would be my guess.
UNC is literally going to have, if you wanted to do a who's the best matchup when there's 5 guys on the court, UNC probably will have better of the matchup at like 4 positions, like like the whole game.
I've hung out with Brian.
And this is a very like North Carolina, Hubert Davis, like Roy Williams lineage thing, like kind of getting it going in February or March. This has happened before.
Yeah.
They often take some time to be playing their best basketball. But no, I hung out and watched basketball with Brian Geisinger enough to know that there were times where it surprised me and it became is it a head case thing? Is it a chemistry thing that they're not clicking because they have the talent? But they literally have three dudes who shoot 40% from three. Yeah. And they're on the floor basically the whole game, right? Yeah. Everybody as fans, we're like, that guy's a good shooter. Like, you say somebody's a good shooter because they're supposed to be or they're the shooter on your team. But it's like, no. The numbers are Caleb Love can do some stupid stuff, and he does. He takes some bad shots. I realize when he takes his bad shots. But also, like, when he's putting up a three, you're like, that's probably a pretty good shot. As long as you're not forcing it with a hand in your face, you taking a three is a pretty good shot.
None of the guys are chucking the ball. They're not like three Turquavians out there.
I do think Love is like a bit of a chucker, but like the offense, like they kind of need the deep step backs. That's like when he's hitting those, it's like, yeah, like they're really, it's tough to stop them because like that's the thing that just beats every defense, you know.
Here's what I realized about Caleb Love watching it like up close. I've seen it all year. His biggest problem is he beats, whether it's like in a pick and roll or his man's guarded too close, he beats his first man well with like either a good dribble or smart play or step through. After he beats that man, he cannot do anything but she's like, I beat my man. And it's the AAU of like, well, now that I beat my man, I'm going to the rim. It's like, yo, sometimes the defense is collapsing. You don't have to shoot it you have done your job by breaking down the defense. Now all you got to do is just make that one pass. He had a couple last night to three, but his bad shots are usually because he beats his man and then he just can't be like, wait a minute, I should still pass even though I beat my man. The two other men coming at me are not good.
My interpretation of Love, or what I've thought of him, I think it's been better this season. It was a disaster last year. I still think he struggles to beat guys one-on-one. And I still think, like, even if he can kind of get around a guy, like using a ball screen, it's not like he's a nuclear, like, guy where he just gets to the rim. Yeah. It's like he still has to kind of, like, herk and jerk his way to the rim. And, like, he doesn't have very good touch, like, on floaters and runners. And so he just takes some of these wildly tough contested shots. And you could see last night, like, he lit up when he would get Franklin or Kihei Clark, like he went at those matchups, but like Beekman had him. Like every time it was Beekman versus Love, Caleb Love wasn't getting anywhere north-south on the court last night. But what I would also like to say, because we were talking about UNC shooters, like it's like they have three guys that are 40% high volume shooters, but those guys also aren't like stationary, just like stand in the corner statues. Like Brady Manick is 6'9", 6'10", and he runs all over the court. Like they run him off. Like it's really hard to guard a power forward that tall that can run off screens. And then they use him in these like tandem actions with Baycott, and it causes all kinds of problems for a defense. And then like Caleb Love's threes don't happen in a vacuum either because he is the deep step back, off the dribble 3-point capabilities. And like, yeah, I mean, I've made my opinion of RJ Davis before on this pod, and like I just think he's a really nice decision maker for them in the half court. Not like a north-south guy, but he can like zig and zag, and obviously like he's a great spot up player too. And I think Leaky has really like settled in offensively.
Yeah,
connector role,
Yep.
He's shooting pretty well too, which like that obviously makes everything easier. But just the guy that like when there's a double team, he'll cut, they'll find him, and then if Leaky doesn't score, he'll make the extra pass, and then that ball it'll go from Baycott to Leaky to RJ Davis for a three.
Yep.
One question.
Yep.
As UNC fans, they've been playing well, they're looking good, they're clicking. Are we past the point where, let's say they lose tonight, UNC fans are not allowed to result back to go back to we weren't that good this whole year, and so this was normal because we did it. We were bad before, because you can't be chesty now. You can't talk about your seed should be higher. You can't talk about beating Duke. You can't talk about playing your best basketball of the year. And then if you do get upset tonight, go back and say, well, we knew that was going to happen. Like we saw that before. Not only does UNC have no excuses if they don't win tonight, and they should be the better team, and they should, but like the fate of the ACC tournament
rests in Duke and UNC right now, right? Like nobody wants to see Duke, Virginia Tech, and nobody wants to see UNC Miami. I mean,
I would Duke, Virginia Tech would be. I know it's not what everyone else wants. I would be.
And literally, they might not play the final if it's Miami, Virginia Tech. They might just say, you know what, guys, we can.
I can see like Phillips be like, all right, guys, I called the selection committee. You guys are both in the tournament.
Right. You don't need this win. You're both in. You made it this far. But I mean, what a debacle it would be to have a Miami, Virginia. It will be an empty arena, and we talked some Duke too. But I want to get to, fellas. It has all the feeling being here on the ground in Brooklyn that this is the last time we'll be in Brooklyn. I don't know that. I haven't heard anybody say that, but you could see it on the faces of the media who don't matter, the fans who kind of matter, but also like the ACC officials. Everybody's kind of like, they're not mad that there's nothing that Brooklyn did wrong. The Barclays Center staff is obviously great host. It is a cool arena, and it's a cool town to be in, but it just doesn't work. Like when
they misfired with not being at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah,
seriously, it sounds stupid. I think it sounds really stupid to say that because the Barclays Center is great. Like Brooklyn's kind of cool to be around. Like
love both actually.
And because it's not at the Garden, it feels like the big ACC is second rate, and you would never get over that. You could have Duke UNC play every year in the ACC tournament up in Brooklyn, and like it just wouldn't. But if they played every year in the Garden, it would just be the biggest event in the history of the event.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point in part because also like Madison Square Garden like isn't empty right now. Like the Big East tournament is playing there, and like that just regionally is super important there. And then like the second thing that I would make is I like thinking of this like from it's an interesting like microcosm as to how and how it compares to both like the Knicks and the Nets in the NBA, which is like the Nets have the last couple of seasons far and away been the better team, right? And like they're the team with the better players. Even without James Harden, they've still got Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But like short of the Nets winning a title, like they could get to the conference finals. But if the Knicks like win one game in the first round, it's going to create more buzz.
Yeah.
This is literally what happened last year when they won one game against Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. And it was like the biggest thing that's happened in, New York basketball in a decade or whatever, despite the fact that like the Nets have been like they've gone from like pretty good and plucky team to like this, superstar, juggernaut team. Even though they've been kind of bad this year, but I think it fits into that. And Goodson's right. It's like Brooklyn. It's nothing against like Brooklyn is awesome. It is like one of the coolest places in the world to be. I love visiting there. And like I'm enough of a dork that like I still get like before tip off at those games at Barclays Center, they start playing like Notorious B.I.G. and like you're like it doesn't get lost to me. You're like, wow, I'm in New York City about to watch, Duke or UNC or State play. Like this is pretty cool. We're getting to do this right now. But I don't know. I guess the question I would pose to you guys is, do you think
if Syracuse was better, I don't think this would be an issue. I don't think it'd be but Joe Giglio, or who's there? We know Joe, friends, and he put out a tweet yesterday, and kind of to your point, Perm, of if Syracuse literally can't show up for yesterday's game, and their fans show up for yesterday's game, and don't hit me with the Syracuse isn't even good this year, or Syracuse, or tournament, or it's a Thursday game. Like, no, you're in Syracuse. You have enough alumni in the area. And even if you don't, you drive to Brooklyn, you skip a day of work and go see your team play Duke. If that arena can't show up for that, like I don't think if we were in Greensboro and State was playing yesterday against someone, I don't think State fans aren't selling out the arena. But even a bad State team, their fans will go to Greensboro to show up for their tournament game, even if they're angry about being there. They'll still be there. Like the fact that Syracuse has never really been a factor in the tournament in Brooklyn sucks. But even the times we were there, I can't even remember their fans like taking over that arena, which was kind of surprising because all you hear all the time is that Syracuse basketball is the biggest thing north of, in the Northeast.
Yeah. I also think if Pittsburgh were better, that would matter. Like another sort of like regional, semi-regional. They're not regionals. Maybe a bit of a stretch, but that's a team that definitely like draws play. And when they were good, Pittsburgh like drew players out of New York City. So I think that would matter. Well, Goodson, the thing a question I would ask you is like, how much does like outside of optics, which is to say that like it's not great to have like games being played in front of like arenas that are empty or whatever, or half empty or half full or however you want to look at the glass. Outside of that, does the ACC care all that much? It's like the TV rights are sold.
I don't think they care. I mean,
like the TV, like this, like everything's paid for already. Like they're making a ton of money on this. So like, I think honestly the bigger deal is like Syracuse doesn't help, but also the fact that all these North Carolina people are having to spend all the media from North Carolina are having to spend their own money and dime to get up to an event that no one's at, and it's also the appeal of if we're in the most populous city in the world and we can't fill this up, then why didn't we just go down the road to Greensboro and do this? Yeah, for sure. For sure. And again, I think it is. Like,
if we're gonna have UNC in the final, then we could have just done this at home.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, where the cost of this trip were restrictive to me. Like this is the first ACC tournament since 2013 that I have not gone to cover, and it was simply because I have a place I could stay in New York City, but it's just like everything else, the travel and every other expense of just being in a very big, expensive city for 4 or 5 or 7 days was just it was a legit barrier to entry. The other thing too, I just do want to side note because you were talking about Pac fans. Like shout out to them. Did you see the? I think it was the official NC State women's account tweeted out yesterday that like they were third nationally in like attendance percentage, which is really really cool. And like what an awesome, like I know like we should probably talk about Duke here, but like I just want to like a quick like shout out to them because like it's awesome that people like a lot of people like bemoan like, oh, no NC State games at PNC, or pardon me, no at Reynolds, and the basketball program stinks, and it's like like they're playing 9 p.m. tip-offs in this hockey arena, and like the product is like pretty blah, but it's like no, there is an NC State basketball team. They play all of their games at Reynolds. They're awesome. They're like one of the 3 best teams in the country, and they play in front of a sellout bleeping crowd every single game. And it's like, I guess my thing would be, the thought would be like, it's awesome and it's cool that like very quickly the community like has sort of like gotten like supported in around Wes Moore and that team, because when I was at State, I think Kelly Harper was the coach. Yeah. And like I worked for State's athletic department like as an intern, and I mean some of those games at Reynolds, this was old Reynolds before the renovations, and you couldn't get anybody there. You know what I mean? And to see what it's become now, which is like the most electric, one of the most electric basketball environments in the state is pretty damn cool. So, and like there were multiple times this year I thought about going to games at Reynolds, but was like, it's literally sold out. I can't just like go up to the ticket office and be like, yeah, I'd like to get like, 1 or 2 tickets for tonight. Like that literally wasn't there. So
that's cool. I said earlier, I'm at the hospital. I've watched a ton of basketball. How much of the Duke game yesterday, I'll kind of give you like how much of the Duke game yesterday and like how it was played was like a crazy Syracuse adrenaline play for Buddy, or just the fact that Syracuse had already played the day prior. Mm-hmm. Do you think those were way too – and like the fact they had lost to Duke twice this year by like 1 billion points in both of them, and it's always the hard to beat a team 3. Do you think it was just way more like those factors more so than anything basketball related? Because I watched most of the game, and like Syracuse made a lot of shots and Duke missed a lot of. It looked like Duke was going to run away with it in the first half, and they just they just miss threes, which literally, if you play against the zone, you're going to have a bunch of open threes. If you don't make the open threes, then you could potentially lose the game. But Duke figured it out in the end and won. And I mean, how much of it do you think was all the other weird, maybe non-basketball related stuff?
I think that definitely played like somewhat of a role into it. Like Syracuse having just like an out, like this is a really good shooting team in part because they have Buddy Boeheim. But I mean, 13 of 31 on threes, like it's insane. And like some of the shots that Joe Girard and Jimmy Boeheim yesterday were just like the first shot that Girard made in this game was like a pick and roll jumper over Trevor Keels that just like it's the kind of shot that should go in like 11% of the time. And it just like they were making a lot of really, really, really tough shots. They opened the game. I mean, it was interesting because it looked like I was rewatching the first half, like right before we hopped on the call here. And Syracuse did not open like in the 2-3 zone. They're in this what I guess I would describe as a triangle and two. So like kind of a junk defense. And like, look, I'll give Syracuse credit for that because it was like Duke lit them on fire both times when they came out and just played the zone this year, right? Including like a week and a half ago up in the Dome where it was just like Duke can get every shot they want. Just throw it to Banchero at the middle of the zone, and it's a lob to Mark Williams or it's a kick out to AJ Griffin for a three. And so like kudos to them for trying something new. I do think that kind of lured Duke into some open shots where it was like it's kind of early in the possession for me to be like it's Trevor Keels catches the ball and it's like it's kind of like we haven't even done anything offensively. Like I'm open right now. Like what should I do? And so I think that caused Duke to just be like, well, I guess I'll shoot it.
Right.
And like look, that's playing with that's playing with fire to an extent. And then they flipped to the zone. I thought the zone had some success early on creating turnovers. So just I don't know. One, it speaks to I think when you mix up defenses, I think more teams should do that. Like in general, I think it can really mess with the flow of an offense. And then I just thought like Duke's veterans had awesome game. What Wendell Moore Jr. did in terms of like being unafraid and taking a ton, like took 20 shots yesterday, 26 points on 20 shots. And like Kay said after the game, he was like, it's been a long time since he's had a game where he shot that much. And like we needed that from him. And I thought like obviously like the playmaking of Jeremy Roach was terrific at times for them. And his quickness on the basketball, the decision making, he has his issues defensively, but just having another like steady shooter and ball handler, really helped out. It was not AJ Griffin's game. And so they just drilled down to we're playing Jeremy Roach, Trevor Keels, Mark Williams, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Moore Jr., who played 39 minutes in that game. And that's what we're rolling with. And then I thought Williams in the second half, all 15 of his points in the second half too, right? Like, and had 16 rebounds, 3 blocks, a steal, 4 assists, all of which came in the first half. And it's not like he's a big playmaker. A lot of those are like offensive rebound kickouts for threes or whatever. But I thought Duke. The one thing like if we're going to talk about sort of like emotional, weird, non-basketball basketball stuff. I thought there were multiple times where Duke could have folded in this game.
Right. And I think that Duke ended up watching the game. You felt like as long as Duke would not need to do anything heroic to win that game. They would just need to make sure Syracuse did not continue to be heroic. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like, so it was just like if they just play how they play, like Mark Williams is going to be there to have a ton of open dunks and a ton of rebounds and putbacks. There's still going to be a ton of wide open 3-pointers. There's still going to be a ton of opportunities for Paolo to get into the lane and have a layup. Like it's just kind of like stay true to your course. And the law of averages to work out that Joe Girard and Jimmy Boeheim can't make every single freak shot that they take.
And that's exactly what happened because I think to close the game, Syracuse was one of their last 11 or something like that. Like yes, like eventually they cooled off and it was like Jimmy Boeheim literally he'll never play a better basketball game than he did yesterday. Like that was again considering the opponent in the scenario, the situation could not and will never play a better basketball game. But I just feel like since late Saturday night last week, like I was on a bunch of different like radio shows this week in a variety of different markets. And like I think in all of those or most of those, I got asked the question, like, did UNC break Duke Saturday night, right?
Right.
And I was like, I don't think so. And like no matter whatever happens with Duke in the postseason we'll we'll assign that to like whatever narrative we want it to. So like if Duke loses in the round of 32, we'll say UNC broke them. If Duke goes to the Final Four, we'll say the loss to UNC galvanized them. But I kind of like shrugged a lot of that stuff off because just like it's going to be whatever people want it to be. I do think though, after that loss and just given like what Syracuse was doing and not just playing well, but like, leading late in this game and just throwing in all kinds of slop shots, like it would have been really easy for Duke to just be like, man, like not our day. This sucks. And like, not only did they keep fighting, but like the last 2 minutes of that game was like Death Star Duke. You know what I mean? Like, you saw it, and unfortunately, I don't think we've seen it for like a lot of like full games this year. But there was that one stretch where it was just an eruption. Yeah. The Williams block, the Bencaro steal, the Roach three, the Mark Williams transition dunk, and it was like, holy God! Like, look at all these guys out here flying around, and yeah, you're just like when Duke has moments like that, they're as good, if not better, than anybody in the country. Now, you wish you could see it for sort of these like longer stretches, but I thought it was awesome that like they hung in. They took the best punch they could get from a Syracuse team that had nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. All the pressure in the world is on Duke. None of it is on Syracuse. And for them to like rear back and counter punch when they absolutely needed it to, and to deliver some of their best.
They hadn't done that, which they had not done that this year too.
Yeah. And for them to deliver their best basketball in this hyper compressed stretch, I thought that was really important. And I wonder if that can be something for them to actually like build on going forward.
I like to look at the Vegas stuff and the lines, and I've actually today, and we'll wrap up here in a minute or two. They're playing Miami today, and I think they're like an 8 or 9 point favorite. Like I'm kind of looking at a bunch of teams around the country. Like, were you a top seed yesterday in your tournament, and did you survive? Did you just make it through? Were you playing a team that was hungry, had already played a day before you, and you just found a way to win? And so for that, like, I think it was great for Duke. I actually think Duke's gonna kind of run all over Miami today. Like I think we could see
we'll see
a Death Star, blitz where they go up by 15 points early, and it's just kind of like coast from there. Because we've seen that before. Yeah. It's kind of we've seen the two ends. We've seen like both ends of the spectrum. Usually when Duke has blown teams out, it's like they get up by 30 and the team just can't. They're just not going to come back. Yeah. And if they don't do that, it's like, well, you're probably in for a close game at the end. But like I saw, Duke did that. Villanova did that last night. Providence did that last night. I think Arizona squeaked by their game. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of like when big teams like that is exactly what you're saying. When everything's up against you and you've got the bullseye on your chest, and you actually take the punches and you find a way to do it in a tournament setting like that. I mean, people joke about the everyone's 0-0, but like it's true. Like, you're now in a 1 game setting every time you play. And so there's some nerves, and you could easily fold or easily just lose a game and then be like, you don't have tomorrow to fix it. And
the season could be over really quickly. You know what I mean?
You have to be able to withstand like punches and teams playing well, and be able to play your basketball in a big enough stretch. So I am with you on that. I think that no one will ever remember them beating Syracuse by 9 points. Like it will be kind of like an afterthought if they go on to win the game, if they win the ACC tournament or make the Final Four. But I think if they do those things, you can probably look back at that moment and been like, they got punched and they actually punched back, and they had not done that this year.
I think there were two things for if I were on Duke's staff and I were looking for legit tangible motivational stuff to build off of, it would be the fact that like Duke did the thing in the first half where they got up by like 9 or 10 points, and then like this is what happened against UNC last week, and it's like they're so talented, and they get up that amount. You're like, even when I was sitting press row at the Duke UNC game, AJ Griffin makes that transition 3, and you're like, well, here we go. Like, this is, and I tend to think Duke has a tendency to be like, okay, can we just like simulate to the end? Like, we're up by like 9. It's 10 minutes in. We're way better than this team. Can we just like simulate and just like get this thing over with, you know? As opposed to being like, all right, like let's take this from 9 to 19 points or to 20 points or whatever.
Let's be done at halftime and be able to rest guys. Yeah.
And so for them to do that again, but then to at the end of the game take again like rear back and give again like sort of like their best bit of basketball that we've seen maybe against like that we've seen at least since the I guess maybe the Pittsburgh game or whatever was really impressive. And the one thing I would say real quick, I do want to touch on this of just like Miami gave them fits earlier this season. I was at the game when they beat them in Durham, and I will be curious to see Duke struggled guarding pick and roll against UNC. Miami runs a lot of pick and roll. They've got good pick and roll guards, Isaiah Wong, Cam McGusty, Charlie Moore, especially McGusty and Wong. Like those two guys are terrific, all ACC caliber players. Wong is like possibly an NBA player. And Miami can play a lot of 5-out stuff too. And when opponents have been able to play 5-out against Duke this season, they've been able to do two things. One, they've been able to cut and play backdoor, play behind Duke's denial defense. And some 5-out teams have also been able to play Mark Williams off the court.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be like what I'm fascinated to see is how much does Duke try to go small and play Banchero at the 5? Do they try to do that today? Are they comfortable having Mark Williams guard Sam Wardenberg and pick and roll and pick and pop? So anyways, those will be two things I'll monitor in this game, because I like Duke in this game, but Miami's offense, because of its spacing, because of the pick and roll ball handlers they have, I think there are some things they can do that can make a Duke defense like a little more than uncomfortable.
And we'll close that. There he is. He's back. He's back.
Thanks for keeping it going. I'm probably going to die again here. It's this weak power in New York.
No, we were about to go. We were literally about to finish. I have to go be a dad. I think my wife's breasts are like literally hanging out like 12 feet away from me. So just going to check on that. It is kind of weird. It's like you're trying to help help a child learn how to eat. And part of that is like, dude, put this thing in your, like, do this thing, right? So I think I need to get back to that. But no, BG was going over how Miami does just enough pick and roll type stuff to give Duke. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think we had Duke Carolina coming up. I don't see any way that doesn't happen. Kind of want it to happen because I'm not one of those stupid state fans. Like I want to see the two best teams play again. We saw one blowout in Chapel Hill. We saw kind of a crazy game in Durham. Like I want to see them play each other again. I don't. But Miami, and I feel like Notre Dame is always the same in this situation. Miami and Notre Dame, they've effed some stuff up in an ACC tournament before. Like they are notorious for doing that, and so I don't want to see that. Anything from the tournament, Perm? I know you led the show about it shouldn't be in New York. Is there anything else? I mean,
you're on the scene there. Anything
Honestly, now this is getting way too about us and not what anybody else cares about. But the truth is, this has impact. I tweeted about this after the Duke UNC broadcast. After the Duke UNC game, if you live locally in the Triangle, you expect it to go on to WRAL or WTVD and see Ken Smith, or Mark Armstrong, or just people right? And there are a lot of people that have exited the media, you know what I mean? 5 years ago, not only did you have people that were great sports reporters and great sports writers, but just they made the scene fun. The Brett Strelos, the Stephen Shrams, the Mark Armstrongs, the WRL folks. And now so much of that has turned over that I've almost been trying to plant the seed in some of these young writers of guys, I know that you want to grind, but if you want your job to be fun for the next 5 years, you're going to want to take advantage of these opportunities. And there was folks in media hospitality, but what's great. And then, there's the other cool thing that 10 years ago used to be awesome at ACC tournament, and especially that I would get into, is like ticket scalping, but like that doesn't exist. That area out in front of Barclays basically non-existent. If you walk up and almost bump into somebody, they might be like, "Oh, do you need a ticket?" But it just doesn't. And again, that provides atmosphere to me of like people outside hustling to get in.
I think those two things do speak to like larger, like you localized it, but I think they speak to like larger macro trends of like these conferences becoming like more and more corporatized, right?
Yep.
And playing in different media environments and having their own TV networks, and everything's being funneled in through, a lot of like in-house, media stuff, right? Like this is not Raycom Sports, you know what I mean? Like this is it's Disney, which is that's a big difference. And then also just like you sort of have like the trend of like a media industry that is contracting, right?
Yeah.
It's like less people, more stuff being funneled through either these big corporations or like people that are willing to work for nothing. And so it's just like this sort of like localized middle class has been eroded. Like it's been happening for years now. And like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I said this is someone that has to think about this all the time. Like this gives me a lot of stress in my own life. So it's real. And I'm bummed to see, I'm bummed to like, that was kind of the vibe I got. And I'm bummed that it.
Are you back on board of like it doesn't need to be back in Greensboro? Is that kind of your? I mean, just.
I think so. I was, I've been. Josh Graham's been stealing my take and parodying it out there. But I was on team. If you don't want to hear Augusta, that's fine because the Masters is like way up here above. But College World Series, like if you go the Omaha model, like make Greensboro cool. I think Syracuse fans that like the same Syracuse fans that do come to Brooklyn, obviously not enough numbers, would go to Greensboro just because they're like going to hang with their boys. Actually, this is a funny scene.
Get back to like you go to the tournament to watch the games. Like the city's kind of irrelevant, and like it doesn't matter. Like there's some nostalgia of if you're in Greensboro, you go to the Hams.
Yes, you eat in Carrabba's because
you don't have to be in like New York City and go to like rooftop bar to like
there were 3 Syracuse guys yesterday. Their team had obviously lost, but they were still around, and they were sitting down in the front row, and they were directly behind. I mean, these guys are like grown up. I'm careful now because I say people are older than I am when I forget like I'm pretty old now too. But they're my age or older, in their 40s or young 50s, and they're sitting right behind the UVA broadcast. And you can tell they were just trying to be heard on the. They would wait till the side like UVA broadcast. You guys, I should be going right, make it to those. But like it was funny, it's that type of stuff. Dudes are like, my team lost, but I'm gonna sit here and watch some good basketball and try and get bug these guys a little bit. Those are the type of dudes that would come to Greensboro and like you said, like they live it up at Carrabba's or whatever. But so that being said, I love the model of make it tournament town, make it a destination. People who respect college basketball in the ACC will enjoy it because of what it is. But I was actually kind of not blown away, pleasantly surprised by how good it was in Charlotte. Charlotte has enough of the it's still big for us vibe. And I hate to say it, and I'm a Wake County homer or whatever, but like the light rail thing in Charlotte is cool, and it just makes it's not just Charlotte used to be you just had to go to that one little epicenter, and even that felt a little like this is too much. It's like, I don't want to be here. Like it's
local here. You're at like Dale Jr.'s Whiskey River bar.
But there's just enough that I think that the light rail and the light rail paths that go with it, you could walk in from a few blocks out, and the arena's downtown. Like I'd be okay with it.
There is stuff to do around the town if you're on this, especially because the tournament was different if it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the old school model. Friday, games all day. Saturday, even the games are like noon and 3 or 1 and 4, whatever they were. And then the Sunday games at 1. Like now that there's this weird gap of today, for instance, I could see where the being in Greensboro today, waiting for your teams to play is just kind of like, if you're in Charlotte though, there's a Top Golf. And it's a big enough city too, where like you could probably go walk to some cool bars or, go to a sports bar and watch other games.
And remember the semifinal. That again, it's back to the whole TV thing. You know that if ESPN's got the property, they're going to want to put the semifinals in like prime time. But remember, the semifinals used to be like
it was 1 and 4. It was
Saturday
like afternoon.
Your basketball filled your day, and then it doesn't matter what restaurant or bar you're at at night because you're out and your team either won and you're buzzing or you just saw some good games or whatever. So I think it's not just the location. I think the timing of the event, and like you said, making it a 5-day thing instead of a 3-day thing. It did. The energy jumped up yesterday. Duke Syracuse. I know Julio's right. Like if you can't fill the building with Duke Syracuse, you're not going to. But at least there was like energy. Two big fan bases. But I think the changing of the game times, dissipates the energy in somewhat. You're not following a 4-day, 4-game day yesterday with back in the arena at 1 o'clock today with another, flash.
I do think I'm glad you brought up Charlotte. I think the logical progression is for it to end up there. Like in part because I think that's where the ACC headquarters are going to end up too.
Agreed.
I could see it. I was on Adam Gold's show yesterday, and he's brought up DC as a great spot for it too. And he was sort of thinking it'll rotate between DC and Charlotte, which I would actually like that. That's totally cool with me. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah,
that would be fine. And then maybe you mix in some Greensboro somehow, some way. But I think Charlotte is the logical progression. And I think if you put a gun to Jim Phillips' head and said you can only right now you have to decide. Oh my goodness, a baby!
We got Mason Goodson making his debut on the live stream. Look at that, folks.
But if you have to pick one place, it can never move from this place for the rest of the history of the tournament. I think he would pick Charlotte. In that scenario. It's got
one foot in the
walkability of DC is cool. And I just think it would make for a we loved when it was there in 2016 and would have had a great time going back there. I guess that would have been last year before it would have been there before
there's going to be a makeup DC that would have been last year, I think, in 2 years or whatever.
Let's see what that looks like. You know what I mean? Let's see what it looks like and then maybe go from there.
Our dude Max Gonguer is literally sitting behind Jim Phillips, and so I've been encouraging him to loudly talk, be like, "Man, great game, great teams, but this atmosphere, woo, man, just really flat." I've been to a lot of ACC tournaments, and this is the driest right here, So, but I don't know. I don't know if Max doesn't seem like that type of guy. He's actually. I will credit Max and his mother. They are on team. We're here to watch games. They come, they show up, they barely leave their seats if they don't have to, and I bring them water.
That actually matters, right? Because like you said, the conference doesn't care if the seats full.
No. They don't. It doesn't.
The media stuff's already done.
It's like bowl games. It's bowl games now.
It's so
so I assume that you could get the same. I assume you would get the same sponsorship deal if it was in Greensboro or Charlotte or whatever. So
yeah.
All right, let's sign this thing off before my phone dies twice in one broadcast, and let's let Goodson go be dad. Let's have some good games today.
Let's take it live later today. I am begging to go live later. I'm watching a lot of hoops. I've seen a lot of stuff. I was talking about Villanova, Providence, and Arizona with BG earlier.
You've been warned. Goodson's Big East takes are incoming.
I've watched so much basketball. I have the pulse of the college basketball world right now. I'm seeing the games in my brain. I know who's going to win. I know who to bet.
There was a bar last night where some dudes. It felt like back in the day when you went to a bar in college and they were giving out cigarettes, and then there was a time where they were just somebody that works for the cigarette companies just out there trying to get you hooked. Right. Then there were the people that were trying to give you the non-cigarette nicotine items or whatever. Here's this guy, and they're just in the bar giving it away. Now those same jobs are people in the bar trying to get you to bet. They're like, here, scan right here, make a free $10 bet, and I'll buy you a beer. And they're like, wow, the game is coming. So I was talking about this trying to figure out the game. The other thing I also meant to mention this earlier, BG, you would have loved this. The games were fun to watch last night, but my favorite thing, I walked into some bar. I went to Patsy's Pizza, our shout out. That's our spot. I just had a beer there. I couldn't get a whole pizza because I'm by myself. I miss you guys. I just had to get a freaking meatball appetizer. Then I stopped in this other bar, walking back to the arena because it looked like there were a bunch of people in there. It happened to be a Carolina bar, but that wasn't why I went in there. I didn't know that was going to be the case. But there's a table of obviously you know who played last night, BG. Harden versus the Nets.
Yeah.
These dudes were animated, just pulling against Harden and just whipping him like look at you, fat boy. Look at you, fat boy. Just like get him, KD. You know, just like it was fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, the Nets went on the road last night and did possibly some damage. Like Philadelphia has been fat and riding high since the Harden trade, and Brooklyn went in there and Kevin Durant, Patty Mills, they went nuts last night.
These Brooklyn dudes were loving it, and I was watching them, and I was like, man, are they? I was mad because I could tell they weren't watching the ACC tournament, and it was the Notre Dame Virginia Tech game, so I knew nobody could be that enthusiastic about it. And I thought they were watching St. John's or something, and then I sort of figure out, I'm like, oh no, they're watching that and they're pulling for the Nets, but they're mostly pulling against Harden right now. So
he had a very bad game last night, by the way.
Well, can we finish with that?
Yeah,
we can never forgive the luck, the run that Virginia went on to win the national title. Had that never happened, we could have just absolutely destroyed them last night. Even so much that like one of their fans on Twitter, his tweet last night, I think I shared it with y'all, was like, the reality is that our margin of error was non-existent, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's been non-existent this whole damn time, and you've got lucky. And it like last night is exactly just disgusting.
Yeah, it was gross. All right, we'll be live. Keep it tuned here on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. We'll go live a little bit later today. Let's have a good semifinal. Let's get 2 triangle teams in the finals. All right, let's do this. Sports Channel 8, we out.